Hi there everyone. Today I'm going to make banana bread. And as you all know, cooking and baking and creating food in the kitchen, it goes a lot further than just baking or just cooking. It brings family together and friends together. It's a whole new type of interaction with people. And if you watched or those of you who watched my first video on making sauerkraut, you saw that I pretty much talked about my sister, who was the one who introduced me to that recipe because we made sauerkraut together. So it kind of ended up being like her legacy in my video. And she was my sister who passed away 6 years ago. And again, these bananas have been staring at me. And this is the perfect time to make banana bread. And they're not rotten, they're just ready to be baked into a banana bread. So I can't make this recipe without bringing my sister up, who hand wrote this. I still have this recipe. And at the very bottom, she was a woman of faith. There's a scripture on it that says the fruit of the Spirit is love, Galatians 5:22, and these were her recipe cards. So today I'm going to show you a very wonderful recipe by a wonderful person, my sister Chrissy. So these are all the ingredients that go into my sister Chrissy's banana bread. She has it written as a half a cup of salad oil, and that shows how old this recipe is. I've never heard anyone recently refer to oil as salad oil. A cup of sugar, 2 eggs, 3/4 a cup of mashed ripe banana, 1 1/4 cup of flour, 3/4 a teaspoon of baking soda, and a half a teaspoon of salt. One thing my sister's recipe doesn't have is any kind of nut in the banana bread, but I always add nuts. And so I bought this nut chopper right around the holidays, and this is the first time I'm using it. So I'm trying it out, and it looks like it works pretty well. So you can see it has like a little area where you put the nuts, and then you just put the lid on and grind it. So this is the first time I've used this, and it's really a nifty gadget here. So it worked really well too. If you ever see these online, they're really nice. Your overripe bananas, and you want to mash them with a fork. And the recipe calls for 3/4 a cup of ripe bananas. So right now what I'm doing is I'm going to mash it. I'm going to keep mashing it till it's all mashed up, and then I'm going to measure out 3/4 a cup. So I learned from some of my other YouTube buddies to crack the egg before you use it, which honestly I've never done before, and it makes sense. So this banana bread's going to have 2 eggs, and those bananas, believe it or not, made exactly the amount I needed, which is 3/4 of a cup. So we're on the right track right now. Now we're going to go blend everything together. We're going to start with creaming our sugar together with our oil. That's where we start, and I am using olive oil. So we're going to start blending. And then you're going to add your eggs one at a time. And after everything's mixed just like this, you'll add your banana. So I always incorporate my own little extras into almost every recipe I make. So my sister doesn't have vanilla on her recipe, but I add like a dab of vanilla, and I add like 1.5 teaspoons of cinnamon, which isn't in the recipe. But next we're going to add our dry ingredients, which is flour, salt, baking soda, and my cinnamon that I add. And I add about 1.5 teaspoons of cinnamon. And at the very end, I'm going to add the nuts. And I have about a half a cup of chopped pecans in here. So our last step is pouring our banana bread batter into our loaf pan, and it looks really good. Smells delicious. And we're going to put this in a 350-degree oven on the middle rack for, I believe it's 25 minutes. Let me just double check. No, it's between 30 and 35 minutes. It's been a while since I've made this. I make it probably about once a year. So we'll get this in the oven in just a few. There it goes, 350 degrees. I'm going to set the timer for 25 minutes. Our banana bread is done. I first set it for 25 minutes and I used a toothpick and it was nowhere near done. So I went with another 10 minutes. And after 10 minutes, which is 35 minutes, it was almost done. So what I did was I turned off the oven and I let it set in there another 5 minutes. And when I went back, it was perfect. So it still cooks a little even when the oven is off, but I didn't want it to burn, so that's why I turned it off. So now we're gonna let it cool about an hour. Our banana bread has been cooling 50 minutes. So let's take it out. It's still warm, it's just not too hot to cut. So I'm going to cut it now. So here we are. Doesn't this look wonderful? I did add, like I said, a few of my little extras to it. My sister never put cinnamon or nuts in hers, but it was still really delicious. But I like to add nuts, which are pecans, and the cinnamon, a little bit of vanilla. It gives it a little more flavor. But the way she made it was just fine. I just always have to add something. So here's the other half that we haven't cut yet. You can see how well done it is. It's just perfect. So it cooked 35 minutes and then sat in the oven with the oven off for another 5. So I would say about 40 minutes was right for my oven, and I have a gas oven. So let's give this a try. Delicious. The only thing it needs is a glass of milk. So I hope you try this recipe. I think you'll really like it. It's been in my family for over 30 years. I can't tell you how long, but I know it's been at least 30 years. So I hope you give this a try, and I hope it turns out wonderful for you.